All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom McNair. I'm the Executive Director here at Ohio City Incorporated, and I'd like to welcome you to our November monthly meeting. I think I just want to start up with a couple quick things for everyone here. One of which is it is our November monthly meeting, which means it's a month of Thanksgiving, and I just wanted to say how grateful I am for all of you for coming out tonight, to participate in what's happening in the community. I am genuinely grateful to be able to work in a community of people that are so committed and passionate. So thank you for taking your time to join us tonight. Along those lines, we have food tonight from Real Smoked Barbecue on Lorain Avenue. We tried to up our game a little bit due to Thanksgiving being around the corner. Many of you may know that Real Smoked Barbecue was formerly Ohio City Barbecue. Nav Singh, who owns that, great guy, right? Had to go through a pretty awful ordeal with a group that sued him for name infringement because there's a city barbecue out there, as if Ohio City is somehow proprietary, right? So he's been through a lot. So, remember that they're there. They've got great food. Get in and be able to use those things. And then also, speaking of being grateful, Councilman McCormack is not here this evening, was unable to join us. But wanted to say how grateful I am for Councilman McCormack and the new administration. I think a lot of you know, but maybe you haven't heard yet. 10 plus years ago, we started a process in a storefront on Lorain Avenue called Launch Lorain, where we were re-envisioning Lorain Avenue. It went through a community planning process for how we wanted to transform that. That evolved over the course of several years into the Lorain Avenue cycle track, which I think people have known about, has been going on for some time. Last night, legislation was passed to allow to move that forward with an RFQ for the design phase of that. That was done intentionally with the administration so that they would be able to align it with the planning process for the Superior Midway, so that those two pieces of infrastructure will be able to be designed together as a network, which is crucially important. And while not all the dollars have been raised for this, I think this is something we've been lobbying for some time. Having that, using the money on hand from the city to actually design that and get it to be a shovel-ready piece of infrastructure is going to be a critically important part to moving that forward. So that has been 10 years in the work. I know several of you have been here, have been involved in that and big supporters. So thank you for everyone around that. And then, as we sit here at the community meeting, again, I think a lot of you know that these community meetings were designed as part of our racial equity framework, how we do things more transparently as a neighborhood. Having these meetings both live streamed for comment, recorded so that they're accessible later, all with the idea of transparency. Along those lines, if you've looked at our neighborhood engagement plan, that was a big part of that. We are getting ready to roll out one of the next pieces of that, which are going to be these yard signs that appear wherever development is occurring. So you'll notice these start to pop up around the neighborhood. So there will be signage that's out that says that a project that is coming. You can see that little yellow box area. There'll be kind of pieces that are laminated that put up there that let people know what the development is, what's coming. Again, you'll be able to log on to our Co-Urbanize website and kind of give feedback on that. If things are going to like the Board of Zoning Appeals or other city meetings, they'll be posted on there. So again, just a way to continue to try to be more transparent about what is happening in the neighborhood, connect people to information that exists around here. And then lastly, before I get everything turned over here tonight, did want to mention, I think at our first community meeting that we did in this format in the spring, we were joined by LMM and a youth drop-in center that was looking to potentially move into a location on Franklin Boulevard. We did recently receive word from the folks at LMM that they do intend to pursue variances for that site and move forward. So, we've begun that dialogue with them. That is something that will be joining likely our January community meeting. We're still kind of working through what the timeline and process looks like, but wanted to let you guys know that that's coming back around now. So with that, we wanted to give you guys an update. I know Angie's anxious to get up here, and we're anxious to have her. But as you guys know, we've been working on a mobility study in the neighborhood, and thankful for all of you who have participated in that, along with Nate Lull. Angie has really done, I think, a great job pulling this together, and we wanted to give you an update on where that is at. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Angie, but also just house rules just for remembrance on here. Again, these meetings are live streamed and recorded, so when we get to the point where people have questions or comments, we'll invite you to please come up over by Jared over here, the microphone that's sitting. Thank you for waving, Jared. You'll be able to approach that microphone. Please introduce yourself, say hello, your name, because again, you are on kind of camera over there, and either ask a clear question or kind of keep your comment to 2 minutes or less. So with that, Angie, love to have you up.
Hi, awesome. Thanks, Tom. So my name is Angie Schmidt. I actually live right down the street in Detroit Shoreway. And I have a business called 3MPH Planning and Consulting. We have a little office in Tremont. We're relatively new. And a lot of our clients are sort of out of the region and out of the state. So it was really fun to do a project so close to home and with such a cool community as Ohio City. So I'm going to be outlining what we did this summer. We're calling it the Ohio City Mobility Study. And what was completed this summer was what we called Phase 1. And it was mainly just community engagement. So I just want to make a few acknowledgments. The team at Ohio City, a lot of folks in this room, or I noticed a few folks in this room that contributed as well. So a lot of the major institutions were involved in some way and helped. Okay, so our study design, we used a variety of tools because we didn't want to just hold like a single public meeting and just kind of get feedback from sort of squeaky wheel type folks, sort of the regular suspects. We wanted to really get a sense of a good cross-section of what the neighborhood thought were the problem areas. And so the goal of this study was to identify those problem areas. So again, this is the engagement phase. We did an online survey. It was on Co-Urbanize. Hopefully, did anyone in the room participate? Show of hands. Okay, good, a few. I'm going to talk more about that. We also held a series of focus groups. I'm going to talk more about that as well. And then we did a crash analysis. So it was really a safety-focused study, trying to figure out where areas of concern are for the residents. Our goals were to identify 10 to 15 problem areas. And overall, the goal is to improve sort of quality of life and safety in the neighborhood. Okay, so a little bit about how we notified people about our survey. We did a little bit of hand delivering flyers to businesses. We had yard signs out. I don't know if you guys saw those. The information was shared on all of Ohio City's communications channels a few times. I did speak at one of these meetings a couple months ago when we were launching, and then the outdoor yard signs as well. So that's a photo of us. One day we went and sat for several hours in Market Square, just asking people what they thought. Okay, so this is to give an overview of what we found in the survey. We did have pretty high engagement with this survey. It did get out there. More than 25,000 views of the website, almost 3,000 unique visitors, and we had 157 people comment. Okay, so in addition, we did these focus groups because we know not everyone is super online, and technology is intimidating for some folks. So we wanted to get feedback from people who don't normally participate in planning processes. So here's an outline. I don't know if you guys can read this if the text is too small or you're getting a good sense mostly. We met with students, we met with youth, we met with folks that use social service agencies in the neighborhood. We did that outreach event in Market Square to try and reach transit riders, really just to get a broad cross-section was the goal. And we also did meet with not all, but a handful of block clubs. And I see some folks from those block clubs in the room. Okay, in addition, this is just a real high-level analysis using some ODOT data, but we looked at where problem areas are just with the crash data. And so we're trying to, I always like to perform a crash analysis whenever I'm doing a study, just to kind of check what we're hearing from residents with some sort of hard data. And I think if we go back to the survey, and again, this is a heat map of where people pinpointed as problem areas. And then we go forward to the crash analysis. They do align pretty well, which sort of tells us we're on the right track. Okay, now I'm getting into the red meat of this presentation. What did we find? What is our outcome? So again, the goal was to select these problem areas. So once we had all these survey responses, we had our discussions with the focus groups, we looked at the crash data, we got together and we came up with these focus areas. So I'm going to go through them one by one, but it was based on, again, if we go back to, these are the areas that the people in the survey pinpointed as being a problem. Again, here's the crash areas, and here's roughly what we decided to focus on in the next phase. Okay, so you're going to get a sense in these next slides. I'm going to go through them one by one just real quickly, but you're going to get a sense in the next few slides of a few of the comments we got from people. So a lot of people are probably familiar with this. This one came up a lot, West 25th and Market Square, some issues with that crosswalk. Another one, Lorraine and Abbey and Gearing across from the West Side Market. Chatham and Fulton was something we heard a lot about, although there have been some improvements to that intersection very recently, so that's encouraging. West 41st Street, just in general, was one that stood out, so we're going to be looking at that more closely in the next phase. Okay, 44th and Bridge, right outside of Masons, was another one, and then over by Hingetown, West 29th and Detroit. Lorraine and 45th, West 25th in Detroit, and last year's another one we heard a ton about, this whole situation over by the West Shoreway and West 28th. So I mentioned, if I can go back just real quickly to our focus area, some of these, we selected 9, and some of them are they include multiple intersections a little bit. So while we're down looking at West 28th, people raised issues about sort of the bike lane and those expanded parking spaces. So we're going to be looking sort of more broadly at some of the areas around these sites as well in some cases. Okay, so what do we have planned next? So like I mentioned, this is sort of our findings from phase 1 and just talking with folks in the neighborhood. We really wanted this to be based in people's concerns and not just our ideas of what the problems are from sort of an outside perspective. So the next phase is really supposed to be about addressing the problem areas. And the goal is, has anyone in the room heard of tactical urbanism? Familiar with that concept? Okay, a couple nerds out there. So we're going to be, tactical urbanism refers to modifications, street, roadway, right-of-way modifications that can be done sort of in a low-cost, quick-build way. And the cool thing about tactical urbanism is, and this is one example called a bump out. I'm going to go through. We haven't decided we're doing bump outs at specific locations yet, but I just want to give folks a sense of the kind of things that we might be trying to employ at locations that were pinpointed as having issues and feeling a little unsafe. So this is one example. It's called a bump out, and as you can see, this does show a range of sort of ways it could be handled. With pane and bollards, on the cheap, quick end. Some of these have, you see in the one in the middle actually has been made permanent and is made of concrete. So we're not going to be going that far in phase 2, but the nice thing about tactical urbanism and these kind of interventions is we can test out how they work. So if we were to try something like this at a certain location in the neighborhood, then we'd hear from folks, I assume, pretty quickly about how well they like it, how well it's functioning, if any issues come up. And then that will give us a better sense for future phases potentially that are more permanent. Another example, a couple more examples, a speed table. There's just a few of those now in Cleveland. There's an example with the mayor. Protected bike lane, we do have a short segment now on West 25th, one of the first in the city. That's an example of that, but again, the type of intervention that can be tested out pretty easily and cheaply, and something we might be looking at in certain locations if it makes sense. Pedestrian refuge islands. So the one obviously on the left is a more permanent type of situation, but there are ways to test out whether that might make sense at certain locations as well, using more temporary materials as you see kind of over on the right. Okay, I'll just explain this real quickly. This is an intervention called a hardened center line. And all it does is, you see that low bump and those two bollards sort of in the center lines of the road. And what that does is it promotes slower, sharper turns, left turns. Left turns can be really dangerous both for drivers and for pedestrians. So the goal of this kind of intervention is just to calm traffic a little bit, especially at locations where there's a lot of pedestrians. So hopefully we can avoid any safety issues. Okay, I think Nate is going to come up. I'm wrapping up, and how much time do we have for questions? We're actually running out of time, but I'm gonna be there in the back if anyone does have any questions for me or things they just want to bring to my attention. Again, this has just been an overview of what we did in phase 1, which was pretty much over the summer. So phase 2 would be when we develop and implement these temporary interventions, these tactical urbanism interventions at key locations. And Nate, do you have anything to add? We're hoping to do some of that work in the winter and spring, so we could potentially test out some of this stuff when the weather warms up in the summer. Is that correct?
Basically what I was going to say. Oh, okay. Yeah, so hello everybody. Nate Law with Ohio City Incorporated. I've worked with Angie on this study for the past few months. OCI has been the sponsor of the study, so we've been working pretty closely together in the last few months. So basically, yeah, as you can see, phase 2 is basically going to be working with the city and working with the Ohio Department of Transportation, who has final say over some of these roads that are state routes. And we're going to have to work with them to kind of get permitting and get approval and work with the traffic engineers to determine what can be done to our streets in the short term. And again, as Angie said, we're going to look at quick build, low cost solutions because one of the questions you probably have is, the funding for this project. Where are we getting the funding for? But the funding is basically going to be a combination of fundraising and looking at grants for this. So we don't have, the amount of money to kind of build a permanent solution right now. But the hope is that with these temporary interventions, we can get something more permanent done in the future. And then hopefully we're going to ask the community again at a later date, hey, did you like this? Did you like, a bump out at this location? What did you see when we installed that temporary intervention? And so that's going to be kind of the next community engagement opportunity. And so, yeah, phase 3 is essentially just, again, reaching out and kind of maybe finding some other solutions that can be done and looking at the long-term impacts that this study will have on the streets whenever they are, reimagined in the future. So with that, I know we're a little bit over, but are there any questions that anybody has? Let's move this up. Oh, please go up to the mic. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Is it too late to identify or throw a couple other problem areas into the study? You're past that point now, or
So I'd say
is that a comprehensive list of all the places you wanted to have?
It is, and
Okay.
I would say it's never too late to improve our streets. So we're happy to hear more feedback on that. But for the purposes of this study, we did kind of synthesize, what people were saying and figure out where the most people had commented that those were problem areas, and these were the 9 areas we came up with. And that isn't to say that in the future we won't be advocating for, long-term solutions to all the problems on our streets that make them unsafe. But for this study, with limited resources and limited funding, we do have to kind of narrow down what places we're going to, create temporary or, quick build solutions. So thank you for your question.
So we did get a lot of feedback and we do have a very comprehensive list of sort of issues people in the neighborhood have raised that we can sort of there is hope that when a street undergoes routine maintenance or something that could serve as sort of a resource to identify problems in future road work as well. So even things that weren't included, potentially there is an opportunity now that the issue's been raised to get those addressed when work happens. Yeah, the question was, what about places in the neighborhood that don't have crosswalks? Was that included in the study? Yes, we did look at that a little bit. Some of these places, I actually, just in the last couple weeks, have been striped for crosswalks, including Gearing and Abbey and Lorraine. But if you do have something in mind that you wanted to bring up, like I said, I'll be in the back. And if you do have specific issues, I'm definitely open to hearing about it. But we do have to narrow our focus a little bit, just because our resources are a little bit limited.
If people have items of interest for you to look into, how can they contact you?
Yes, I should have included that. So if you come up and approach me in the back, I can give you my contact info, or anyone at Ohio City can. But my email is angie@3mphplanning.com. If you want, if you come approach me in the back, I'll give you my phone number as well, or we can talk after the meeting. But yeah, feel free to reach out. That's the name of my company, and I'm happy to hear any feedback.
All right, next we will have OHM advisors and Ohio City.
Okay, so hello again, everybody. Still Nate Law here. So this is a quick, brief overview of the Lakeview Connect study, which is being done working with OHM advisors. So we have Matt Hills here from the team, and then also working hand in hand with CMHA for their ongoing Lakeview master plan. So again, just a brief introduction overview of the project. So in the past, there has been basically a couple studies done on Lakeview, and we've worked with CMHA to do some greening and do some cleanups in the neighborhood, but basically there has been an air quality problem there for a long time, and that's due to the surrounding industrial uses. It's due to truck traffic that runs nearby or sometimes in Lakeview, and it also has to do with the shoreway and the emissions that come from the cars using the shoreway. So we've worked in the past again we did a connectivity plan that looked at how we can better connect Lakeview residents technologically, but as well as connect them to their community. And so again, this project is more so looking at the physical infrastructure that surrounds Lakeview Terrace and Lakeview Tower. And we're kind of in the engagement phase right now.
Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? Good. Good to see everybody here tonight. Can you hear me just fine? Good. Very good. Let me see if I can zip forward. This is a little bit different from what I was anticipating. Well, you will see maps in the back later that we will have a chance to give input on. But the background here is there really are two different studies going on in parallel. OHM is working on both of them. The first one is a master plan with CMHA for Lakeview Terrace Estates and that property only. The second project that we're looking for input from all of you tonight on is called Lakeview Connects. That is going to be a larger study area around Lakeview Estates in order to figure out how to better connect Lakeview residents to Ohio City and how to better connect Ohio City residents and visitors to the Flats West Bank. So if you just take a quick look around at that first board on the left there, you will see the general study area and that dark blue dashed line there, and that shows you where we're looking for input on. So back to the screen here, just to give you a little background on the engagement that we've performed so far with Lakeview residents. You can see a variety of different meetings, open houses, events that we have attended. We've also had focus groups, and just recently even did some door-to-door canvassing to ask residents what do they need, what is missing from Lakeview currently, how can we help them better connect with the greater Ohio City neighborhood. Are there any Lakeview residents here tonight? Can you raise your hand? Oh, okay, great. Okay, very good. There she is. And it's we've gotten a whole load of information from the residents, and it's been fantastic. This is just one example of some of the input that we've received back from them. On here, contrary to Angie's diagram that showed red dots as fatal accidents and purple as something not quite as bad, these are not necessarily the same thing. They mean very different things than that map. This map means anything that is in red denotes negative emotions in some form that residents have at that location. The bigger the dot, the more red dots we received on those maps. Purple dots mean something that was positive about that location. So you can see that there's a whole lot of negative burden, if you will, within the Lakeview property, but there is positive and there are negative emotions outside of that area in the greater Ohio City neighborhood as well. We think some of those, based on the input that we've received to date, is based on how well or poorly residents can connect to the rest of Ohio City, and vice versa. How can residents within Ohio City connect better with the west bank of the Flats? So tonight, when we're done with the formal presentations, please meet me in the back and provide your input on each of those boards. You will see directions on each of them of what we are asking you to do. And then we ran out of easels, so be sure not to miss that 7th board over there as well. Just to give you an idea what's happening after this, for Lakeview Master Plan, we're moving into the preliminary master plan phase right now. And for Lakeview Connects, we're going to continue with this engagement stage, talk to a bunch of stakeholders, and then start to form our recommendations. In January, we will come back here to the community meeting, present some initial ideas to you, and ask for your feedback on those ideas. So we're looking forward to seeing you again at that time. Thank you. We do have this contact information here. If you need to get a hold of any of us, we'll put this up later again. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Diane Howard, and I'm a community activist and a community leader of Lakeview Terrace family. And also, I'm the precinct committee person for Ward 3A. Councilman Carey is my councilman. Our main concerns, too, because I'm the only one here to represent my residents from Lakeview, Terrence. My main concern is about, with Clash, I'm with a lot of organization because I am a community activist also. Clash, we went when pandemic first started, and we did soil search. So if the soil, it was lead found in the soil. So is there going to do something about that when they start the rebuilding Lakeview, and also about the air quality, about Ontario Stone? What is going to be done about them that we do have issues at Lakeview?
Yeah, so I'll answer the portion of the air quality. Ohio City has been working with CMHA admin to get some air quality monitors and soil moisture monitors that will be installed in the area. And with that data, we hope to be able to advocate for a outcome that removes the issues of air quality in and around Lakeview. And so that data hopefully allows us to look at a number of funding structures that, through the lens of environmental justice, can remediate the problem. And so those monitors are going to be installed within the next month or so. And we're going to use that data to, again, work to find a solution for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And next we will have Grassroots Architecture and Gold Key Builders for the Clinton Avenue Townhomes.
Evening, everybody. I'm Ryan Grass with Grassroots Architecture. I trust you can hear me. I am here with Andrew Kalnitsky. He's with Gold Key Builders, the handsome gentleman in the back. Appreciate you taking some time out to hear our little spiel about what we're proposing for Clinton Avenue and actually Vine Street. It's a 3-block site. We're excited about it. We've worked a little with planning department and landmarks and the local design review. Had a few iterations of the project, and we'll take a few times. I'll walk you through what we've done, and if you have comments or questions, we'll handle those. So let me start with where it's at. It's at 43 and 4211 on Clinton Avenue. The image in the upper left is highlighted in red. That is the site. It's currently an empty lot. The images on the right in the upper are from the street. If you were to stand in front of the lot at Clinton Avenue, this is what you'd see on the site. The attractive picture in the bottom right is from Vine Avenue. It's a fence that's kind of overgrown with vines and weeds, so we'll clean that up. The next couple slides are really about context. This one is specific to Clinton Avenue. We just wanted to offer you, a little closer, okay, thank you. We just wanted to give you a kind of a smattering representation of the building types that are on Clinton Avenue. Primarily single-family homes, a variety of sizes, styles. It's got a really great character. It's a wonderful kind of homey, single-family home neighborhood. There's a few townhouses and a few connected smaller apartment buildings, if you will, but primarily where we're at, it's single-family homes on Clinton. Vine Street, of course, has a very different nature. It's predominantly garages, some parking. There's a couple, 3 houses within the block and a half stretch in either direction from where we're proposing our design. But again, it's mostly garages. It's an access, it's an alley, but it serves a great purpose. Not particularly important. On the left is the property as it is now. On the right is what we're proposing to separate the property into. It'll be 7 individual properties because these homes are going to be for sale. So here's our site plan. Here's what we've kind of landed on as our semi-final design, conceptual at this point. Primarily, it is 3 single-family homes on Clinton Avenue. Clinton Avenue is to the top of the screen. Vine Street is to the bottom. So we're proposing that we take 3 single-family homes, front yards, front porches, backyards, and 2-car garages, and we position them facing Clinton Avenue, kind of stitching the fabric of that street back together. So if you're standing on Clinton Avenue, you'll see what you'll expect to see is some charming single-family homes. On Vine Street, where we're predominantly looking as access to most of the homes that are on the street, we're proposing 4 townhouses. And I'll show you some imagery of these in a minute, but I did want to point out that they kind of face each other. The corridor, if you will, or the driveway in the center is vehicular access for the 3 garages on the single-family home, and they're also access to 2 of the townhouses. We're calling that area the auto court. We're going to pave it a little differently so when people walk around back there, they don't feel like they're walking across driveways. It'll feel slightly more pedestrian. And then 2 of the townhouses, garages will face the alley. And I'll show you what that looks like. But our goal here, and I wanted to point this out, is that the front is, in our opinion, pretty consistent with what's on Clinton Avenue, and we're happy with the direction that we've worked together to get to. And on Vine Street, what we would traditionally think of as a driveway and access to an auto court, we've tried to create a little streetscape, if you will. We faced 4 townhouses to each other, create little stoops and porches, a little opportunity for landscaping. So there's some level of pleasantness that I think otherwise might not be there if it was just garages. And I think that'll add to the value of not just the neighborhood, I guess, but these townhouses specifically. I'm just going to zip through the floor plans. The single-family homes in the front, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, living, kitchen, dining, full basement, front porch, back porch, patio, yard, 2-car garage. They're about 1,900 square feet. The townhouses, there's 3 floor plans to that. The first floor plan has the 2-car garage included in the footprint of the building. There's kind of a bonus room and an entry area. It could be an office, a small bedroom, whatever you like. On the second floor, there is living, dining, and kitchen, and a deck on the back of the house. And on the third floor are 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. This one's about 1,550 square feet, and that doesn't include the garage or the deck. So this is where we're at in the design of the project. If I can walk you through these images, in the upper right corner is what Clinton Avenue will look like. In the bottom right corner, you start to see in the front, in the foreground, if you will, are the 3 single-family homes, and you start to see the 4 townhouses in the back. I do want to draw your attention to the front ones are 2 stories high, but they're a little taller. The front porch is elevated. It's not that great. It's about 2.5 feet up. So so I think they're right-sized for the neighborhood. The rear ones, because we have the garages included in, they're 3 stories tall. In the upper left corner, you can start to imagine that driveway at the back off of Vine Street. You can see kind of the paving that's there. That's a little different color. You can even see a little guy walking around. We're starting to suggest the landscaping between the buildings and along the drive. And I have a few more images. So here is the 3 single-family homes in their context. You can see the 2 buildings to the right that are there and existing and will be there forever, I suppose. And the ones beyond are a 4-unit townhouse just past our 3 houses. The little image in the bottom left corner is access to the back townhouses. So if you're walking on Clinton, we're proposing that there be a little bit of landscaping and a sidewalk that'll get you between 2 of the houses and back to that kind of pedestrian-themed auto court in the back. You can see it if I go right back to the site plan. Oh, too far. One more. There. Damn, excuse me. So if you can start to see that kind of gray sidewalk that goes between the buildings. So landscaping at Clinton, you walk down the little sidewalk, and there's that little special pavered area to get you access. So people that have guests or friends that come over and you're a resident of townhouses, they have an opportunity to get there and feel like real humans that park on Clinton Avenue. And again, this is a more straight-on view of the single-family homes, the houses on either side. And then the last image, the long, skinny one at the very bottom, that is, we're calling that a site section. That is, if you could imagine the houses next to it gone. On the right of this drawing is Clinton Avenue. You can see the street trees that are there. Then you can see the single-family homes. Beyond that is the little garages for the single-family homes. There's an auto court, complete with a couple cars, I think. And then in the far left of that image are the 3-story townhouses. And we just wanted to show this because our goal here is to add the single-family homes in a way that what we think is a really successful experience walking down Clinton Avenue. It's a charming street, and we thought we do want some townhouses in the back. We want to add that level of density. We also want to add a product that comes in at a lower price point that I think most houses on Clinton Avenue come in at. But our purpose isn't to make those the prominent feature on the site. So we just wanted to illustrate that if you're on Clinton Avenue and if you're not looking strictly between the buildings, you're not going to see the townhouses. So we feel like that's an appropriate way to reach some goals without compromising what we think is a really good experience on Clinton Avenue. That's everything. So I guess just in closing, we'll of course take any question you want, but we're going to continue to work with the local design review and landmarks and go through the process of approvals. That'll be the next month or two, and then we'll continue to move forward.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Franklin Clinton Block Club, Karen Desatel. The slender image, the thin image at the bottom, is that graded as well? Because it appears that those rear townhomes are still taller than the houses on Clinton Avenue.
Yeah, so you're right. It is graded. If you look at the site as it is, and we're not really going to change the nature of the site, the townhouses footprint will be about 4.5 feet above the sidewalk at Clinton Avenue. And the 3-story townhouses will be taller than the houses. But if you can imagine, the far edge of the blue color is the sidewalk on the opposite side of Clinton. So if you can imagine drawing a straight line from there to the top of the townhouses in the back, you would be looking through the building.
Right. And is there no consideration for just building garages with ADUs for the 3 single families and losing the townhomes?
Yeah, we've gone through, I don't know that I'm exaggerating to suggest we've gone through 4 or 5 different iterations of conceptual design and what to provide on the site. We landed here because we do think it's appropriate for the neighborhood, and frankly, there's some appropriateness relative to financial aspects of the project.
There are no townhomes on that part of Vine Court. Have you been pursuing getting that rezoned as a townhome district?
Yeah, that'll be part of the process. We've communicated with the planning department, and they've evaluated the neighborhood and the current zoning, and there are 3 levels of townhouse overlays, if you will, or applications that you can put in this type of neighborhood, and they've assigned it the type of townhouse that we've kind of generated for the project. Now, we still have to go to planning and get their approval for it. But I think we've done our due diligence, at least communicating with them and making sure that what we're proposing would be to some level agreeable to them.
Yeah.
I haven't convinced you.
No, because I fear that once we start parsing out backs of lots for townhomes along every alleyway, I know density is the golden child, but there's a limit, and that just seems a little overly aggressive. So that's my comments. And then I do appreciate the redesign on the front homes. I feel they're still kind of suburban looking for a historic neighborhood, so hopefully you can tweak that a little bit. But I'm sure you'll get input on that from others. Thank
I don't
you.
disagree with you at all on that point.
But thank you for the porches.
Sure. It's good to see you again.
Curiosity question.
Yes,
So each of these would be sold individually?
Yes, sir.
So the sidewalk between the homes that goes back to the townhouses, who owns that?
Yeah, so we'll work out where the exact property lines are, but there will be perpetual easements for like the auto court and the sidewalk and any areas on the site where multiple owners need to access or move around.
So the deeds would have permanent easements. The front houses would have an easement in their deed
Right,
for the people that own the property in the back.
correct.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
Oh, hello again.
Hi, I'm Anita Meyerson, also from the Clinton Block Club. And so your side view at the bottom illustrates my concern, because I live further down on Clinton, next to a property where someone else has been proposing splitting his lot and putting townhomes in the back. And the way that would work then is that, and I think this would be the concern or the effect on the people who live next door to this now, is that where in my backyard, I now have trees to look at from the neighbor's lot and greenery, I would have a wall. And I think that this is a concern, that if you're allowed to do this on that block, there will be no way we can stop someone from doing the exact same thing on our block. And pretty soon, our neighborhood, where there are houses with yards that people are desiring, if they have children that want to play in a yard, will all be chopped up. And I know that there's the city loves density, but I think they're going to ruin our neighborhood with something like this.
In your defense, that's not the first time we've heard that thought. But I don't live in your neighborhood, and but as a designer and an architect and a representative developer, I do feel like what we're doing is at a minimum appropriate and hopefully would be an enhancement to the neighborhood.
So I think that's all the time we have for questions, but thank you. And next we will have Zach Cooper with Sartorial.
And if anyone had additional feedback, that's actually already on our co-urbanized site. So you can go to ohcfeedback.com and you can give feedback already within co-urbanized, which would be great.
What effect does going on co-urbanized have in terms of?
So the question is, what is co-urbanized, the effect that it has? So it allows us to aggregate all of the feedback and use it to give back to the developers, and they can use it to input on their design. And also we have to use it as part of the public process when working with the city. I'll throw it up there before we leave today.
All right. So as they mentioned, my name is Zach Cooper. I'd like to start by thanking all the folks at Ohio City Inc. for putting this together. Very appreciative, and just as much so to all of you folks for coming out. Love seeing a neighborhood and a community that's engaged in the growth and the direction of this neighborhood. So as they mentioned, the building that we're talking about here today is 3929 Lorraine Avenue. If you don't recognize the address, you may actually recognize it as the old funeral home. And while that was a catchy sounding name, we decided to instead go with Sartorial. I understand that for some folks, maybe not a common word that you're familiar with on a daily basis. As you can see here on the screen, definition is of tailors and their work, or a sartorial fashion, you know, another word of saying dapper, looking sharp, something along those lines, which kind of leads into an idea of what we're doing with the business. But really quickly, being that I want to be someone who is going to be engaged and a part of this community as well, I wanted to briefly introduce myself. Obviously, Zach Cooper. Grew up on a near West Side suburb here, joined the Marine Corps, served, I had the good fortune of being stationed in Hawaii, so no complaints there. Did a tour in Afghanistan in 2010. Came back after Hawaii, went to Ohio State, did my undergrad there. At that time, did some work with some veteran organizations, nonprofit, and another organization on campus. Obviously, being a prior service Marine, it's a community that means a lot to me. After that, I had some lot of hard work and a lot of luck. Was selected for a master's degree program, fully funded by the Rotary International. That actually took me overseas, where I got to live in England for a year and a half, live in the Middle East for about 6 months. And it was actually during that time where the concept for this business and my passion for this business really started to grow and develop during that trip. So good fortune. Again, coming back to the building itself here, you can actually see conceptually what we're planning to do with this building. We were really excited. Thank you to Sixmo as well. As you can see, these renderings were done by Sixmo, local architect out of Tremont here. But as you can see with the building, it's got kind of a classic Art Deco style. And what we found in researching the history of this building, you know, it was built back in the 1880s, 1890s. At the time, it was a single entry in the middle with 2 storefronts and living units above. However, when it was purchased by the Bodnar family around the 1920s, they started their funeral business there, and it was in 1930 they actually renovated it. And the renovations that they did, the Bodnar family provided some photos and some blueprints, and this was actually almost exactly what the building looked like after renovations in 1930. The only exception being the small awning that you see here in this photo. Obviously, if you're familiar with the building now, you probably think of that very large awning that's very recognizable. We wanted to maintain that cool style, but really take it back to its roots and what it originally looked like back in that 1930 renovation. And fortunately, I think it's a really, you know, a very handsome style and a very, very classy and simple look. And so we're excited to try to revitalize that and bring that character back to the neighborhood. So that takes me into the business itself. As I mentioned, the business name is Sartorial. And as you can see by looking at these kind of blueprints here, on the right half of the building near the top, that entry point would be Lorraine Avenue. So what you would currently recognize if you were to drive by under the awning there. When you walk into the space, as you can see, it is primarily a retail space. One of the things I was considering as I look at our neighborhood and our city, we've got a lot of great places where you can go buy t-shirts and sweatshirts and awesome Cleveland swag that I love. But when I'm looking for a golf polo, you know, a pair of socks or just, you know, everyday needs, jeans, whatever it may be, everyday needs, there's not a lot of places in and around the city where you can find those items. Similarly, the other thing that I kind of noticed at the same time is when it comes to wedding garment industry, suits, tuxes, etc., there are a lot of big box stores that you can go to as a groom or just as someone that needs a suit. But when you go to a big box store, you don't really get a neighborhood experience. And I think, you know, back in the day, so to speak, we had lots of mom and pop shops all around the city that did these types of services. But more and more over the years, we've seen them go away, and people are left going to Men's Warehouses or Tuxedo Junctions at the mall. And, you know, you don't really necessarily feel so special preparing for your special day. Whereas when you think about the bride's process, you know, for most folks, there's a big process. It's a big to-do. They go to a facility. They spend hours looking at dresses and picking them out. They may have their girlfriends and bridesmaids in there with them to make this a bit of an event and a celebration. And so those were really the kind of gaps that I was looking to fill. So when you think about this retail space, I wanted to have everyday goods that folks in the neighborhood need and can walk to this store and fulfill those needs. But at the same time, I wanted people who maybe are in the city or even outside the city who want a suit, whether it be an off-the-rack suit at an affordable price point or something that is more custom, maybe at a little bit elevated price point, whatever it may be, wanted to provide that special experience. And, you know, I think with retail, we're seeing more and more people still like to shop in person, but they don't necessarily just want to go shopping, perhaps. They want an experience. They want some entertainment. And so that's really what I was trying to fulfill with this. So looking at the other side here of the building, you know, I don't want to give too many details away. You can see where it says hidden door. So kind of trying to bring to life this speakeasy vibe, if you will. So on the other side, we've got a small bar, pool table, some lounge spaces. You can see the fitting area with a kind of putting green built in there, a barber chair. Then you go around back, further to the back side of the building, a golf simulator. and then that little outdoor patio space that exists behind the building. One thing I want to make clear in terms of my intention with this, we've got a lot of great bars, we've got a lot of great breweries in and around this area, and that is not what I am trying to be. I'm trying to go for more of a social club, lounge environment, where people can come and have a cocktail and chat and discuss things or prepare plans for their wedding day or get fitted for a suit, but not some place where people are coming to be all night or early into the morning. So, hours would be generally something closer to 11 to 7 or 11 to 8, as opposed to a bar where you're going till 1 or 2 in the morning consuming drinks and whatever else comes along with that. Given that you're all probably pretty familiar with this building, the layout you saw there was really only the ground floor that you'd be entering off of Lorraine Avenue. So just to briefly introduce you to what I'd be doing with the rest, we've got a small area in the basement where I want to kind of continue and curate that speak-easy vibe that I kind of alluded to before. So an extension of the retail space will actually take you down into another small bar area. Down there, we want to tastefully honor the history of this building. It used to be a funeral home, so we're going to kind of make that a cabinet of curiosities, speakeasy area where we can continue to do entertaining or suit fitting or whatever else may go with it. And then, upstairs, we've got, above us, we've got some tenant space. There is a single apartment unit and then space that I'm hoping we will be able to fill with another great tenant that will be exciting to add to the community. And of course, once we have information on that, we'll be happy to provide it. But the other big element of this business that's really important to me is the giving back. On one of the earlier slides, it mentioned the motto, look good, feel good, do good. And that's not something we just want to pay lip service to when we're doing this. I mentioned that I've got a lot of experience in and around veterans organizations. So one of the elements I plan to do with the store is some type of second suit program where if you're coming in to, say, buy a new garment, suit, whatever it may be, you could actually bring in an old garment, preferably a suit, something that's actually still serviceable, clean, nice, that just maybe doesn't work for you anymore, you're upgrading, whatever the case may be. We would take that in on a trade-in, offer you a discount on your new purchase. We'll be utilizing that to build a small wardrobe with the plan of, obviously depending on how much we're accruing in terms of that material, hosting a couple times a year, some veterans organizations, folks who are either having trouble reacclimating into civilian society, folks who are coming out of addiction programs, folks who are struggling to get back into the job market, whatever it may be. Homelessness, obviously, as a veteran, we have 22 suicides a day, which is far too many. We have very high drug use rates, very high homelessness. So these are the kind of markets that I want to try to tap into, get folks a new clean look, get them a haircut, do some reviews of resumes, maybe some, some coaching, counseling, however we can, to try to get them back into the working world, reacclimated. And as I said, we want to look good, feel good, do good, and we want to really embody that on a daily basis and not just be saying it, So yeah, that kind of gives you the general layout of what we're doing with the building. That said, I had hoped to have a co-urbanized link for you guys already. Unfortunately, I don't. But if you're familiar with the website or if they present it to you, please check it out. My project will be on there. I really look forward to some great feedback from all of you folks so that I can try to use that to make this exactly what this community needs as we go forward. If any questions or anything now, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Again, in the terms of being thankful, I am first. I should have mentioned this at the very beginning. If everyone's wondering why Whitney Long Jones is not here tonight, it's because her and her husband are at home with the latest addition to their family. Joseph Reef was born November 10th, and so she'll be missing for the next few months, but we're really excited for her and Jefferson and the family. But I'm extraordinarily thankful for our board and staff for coming out tonight. A big part of these meetings was making sure that they are here to also be able to interact with everyone. So Laurel Miltner, Gigi Benjamin, Diane Howard, Emily Lungard, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Also to our staff, Jackson Brown for helping get this organized, Katie Bombeck, who continues to help us figure out how to do all this stuff. Very grateful on that one. Nate Lull, who's done a great job, but also I know Lisa is over here who helps get everyone checked in. Really thankful for all their hard work. And also Matt Moss from the City of Cleveland for joining us tonight. And stopping by Matt Hills, our presenter from OHM, who has been here. Matt Schmidt, I'm trying to get all the Matts in order as I can on here. Matt Schmidt with CMHA, who have been great partners as we've done a lot of this work. And from Matt Schmidt to Angie Schmidt, nationally famous author who's really helped us through this mobility study piece. And so again, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. We will not have a December public meeting. You know, we thought the holiday time you might be able to miss one. But again, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We will be around if you want to interact with the team from OHM as we begin to work on the Lakeview Connects. Angie is in the back, and we're here to hang out and answer any questions you have. Thank you so much, guys. Good night.